Darkfall: The Journey is a point-and-click adventure game developed by Jonathan Boakes and first published by XXV Productions in 2002. It is a supernatural story of a man searching for his missing brother in a long-abandoned railway station hotel. Development began on the game in 1999 by Jonathan Boakes working from Hackney. What is really impressive about this game is all done by this one man. Everything you see and hear in the game was created by Boakes. The main plot of the game is based on a short story that Jonathan had already written, which itself was influenced by a Sapphire and Steel episode called The Railway Station, as well as Jonathan's exploration of an abandoned train station in Dorset in January 2000. The station looked like it had been left untouched since the 1940s, and whilst most of the features had been stripped away over the years, it was not hard for Jonathan to take inspiration from this and its tantalising glimpses into the past. He returned to London and began work outlining the story and fleshing out character profiles. Boakes also started working on 3D locations that would be used in the game. Each location uses a 90-degree point-and-click system for movement, so they were developed to be as cuboid as possible. This makes it easier for the player to navigate around the world, as it would be difficult for them to get their bearings if this angular turn was disrupted. For close-ups, puzzle screens and any cutscenes, there was a lot more freedom with the camera angles, and Boakes could experiment with its placement. It was a long and slow process for one person to build the props, the locations that would be used in the game, and at the time Jonathan only had the idea to distribute the final product for his friends and families to play. Boakes was developing it as and when he could, often working at strange hours of the day, both early mornings and late nights. He was also funding the project himself and planning out software and asset usage. The game was developed using MacLeod's director package, which he had learned at university, and the graphics were created using Strata 3D. Compared with the industry standards such as 3D Max, this was relatively inexpensive. Using his knowledge from working on low-budget movies and TV shows, he also adapted the original story to suit his budget. Originally, the game was published independently by XXV Productions in 2002 in a DVD keepcase style packaging. It was also designed by Boakes. It was this version that was handed out to his family and friends. The disc contained instructions, a making of, and a hint and solutions guide. After a deal with the Adventure Company to distribute the game, Boakes stopped making this version of the game. Apparently there are about 2,000 copies of this homemade version that still exist. The game got a worldwide release in 2003 by the Adventure Company, with all the extra features in the homemade version removed. In March 2009, a special limited edition of the game called Pins and Needles Edition was released by Darkling Room. This version contained both Darkfall: The Journey and its first sequel, Darkfall: Lights Out, hint and solutions guide for both games, a collection of ghost stories, and a Darkfall soundtrack CD. Each copy of this Pins and Needles edition was individually numbered and signed by Jonathan Boakes. In November 2009, to coincide with the release of the second sequel, Darkfall: Lost Souls, Iceberg Interactive published a set called Adventures in Terror, British Horror Pack. This contained Darkfall: The Journal, Darkfall: Lights Out, which was the director's cut edition of the game, and Shadow Tor Studios' Barrow Hill. This set also included walkthroughs for each of the games and a soundtrack CD of the music from all three games. This is the version of the game that I own. Apparently the games were remastered for modern Windows versions, and whilst it does run on Windows 7, there are a few issues to be aware of. Due to the nature of developing a game in Director, it has a set fixed resolution of 640 by 480. This is not so much of a problem other than that on my system it doesn't seem to change the resolution, but always displays the game in the top left hand side of my monitor, making it all small and so it makes it difficult to see. A small niggle admittedly. Considering that by the time the game was released the point and click genre was considered dead, at least in mainstream gaming, it did quite well in reviews, obviously doing better by sites and publications that specialise in adventure games. So what's the game about? It opens with the player, who remains unnamed throughout the game, listening to a message on his answering machine from his brother, Pete Crowhurst. Pete is currently working on the redevelopment of an old abandoned train station and hotel. He asks the player to travel to the station in Dowerton in Dorset because something is amiss. During the message he mentions meeting two ghost hunters that are also in the hotel and says that he didn't believe in ghosts until now. The phone call ends with him saying it is outside the door, whispering his name, and that he is compelled to let it in. The sound of the door opening ends the message, and with that the player takes a train to Dowerton. During the train journey the player falls asleep, and when he awakens finds himself in a train tunnel where he hears the voice of a young boy but cannot see him. The boy guides him out of the tunnels to the station and tells the player that he has lived in the area since 1941 and that it doesn't know that they are talking but soon will. During the initial exploration, you find the belongings of Pete and discover that he too heard the voice of the boy by the tunnels, as well as a phantom whistling on the station platform. As you progress and explore the hotel, you will discover why it was originally closed and what happened to the people working and staying there, and you will need to find 12 symbols and the meaning behind each of them. It seems that George Crabtree, the hotel's mysterious owner, discovered that a great evil was haunting the area, and the only way to put a stop to it was to use the 12 ancient symbols and an incantation. It seems that the it that keeps getting mentioned is known as the Darkfall, and that over the years it took the hotel owners and guests. In order to protect him, George scattered the symbols and their meanings that he would use so that the dark energy known as Darkfall would not discover their true meaning before he could use them and put a stop to the evil. Now it is up to you to put the pieces of the puzzle together and put a stop to the evil once and for all. Darkfall the Journal is a non-linear game, and you are free to explore and complete tasks in any order you see fit. Unlike most modern adventure games, this one will not keep track of any information you come across during the game. It is up to you to keep your own notes, and this may put some gamers off, but I really enjoyed this aspect. Playing text adventure games back in the day on my ZX Spectrum, I would often have to use a pen and paper to make notes, so really enjoyed this blast from the past. We'll spend the majority of the game solving numerous puzzles that are intricately designed and go beyond the usual find key, unlock door puzzle found in contemporary adventure games. The feeling of oppression and isolation looms large in this game, and it does a tremendous job of building up on this atmosphere. The game is truly creepy and reminds me of a time when I explored an abandoned nursing home during my younger days. The stairs will creak and you will hear what sounds like footsteps banging around on the floors above you. The wind will howl through cracks in the windows, and it's all very spooky. The visuals are also very good, with it being dark without ever being difficult to see, unlike a lot of modern games that try and do the same sort of thing. This is a breathing world, and there is just so much to see and read. The interface of the game could not have been simpler. Everything is controlled using a mouse, which moving around will change cursor depending on what there is to interact with. Move to the edges of the screen and it changes to an arrow so you can navigate through the environment. Move over something of interest and the cursor changes to a magnifying glass. If there is something to interact with, operate, pick up or read, the cursor changes to a hand icon. If you enter a room and the cursor changes to a use icon, that means you are carrying something in your inventory that you can use in this location. Navigation can be tricky and not as obvious as I would like. There are areas where movement becomes difficult and unclear. For instance, I went back outside the hotel to the train station platform and then wanted to immediately return inside the hotel. But I couldn't do this. I couldn't just turn around. I had to go down the platform a bit first. Then I was able to turn around and go back inside. It's not all the time, it's just some locations, and it's not that much of a problem when it does happen. An indirect sequel called Darkfall 2 Lights Out was released in August 2004. This game was initially set in 1912 and was influenced by the real-life disappearance of 3 lighthouse keepers in December 1900. None of the characters or locations from the first game appear in the sequel, although there is mention of it as the main evil. In November 2009, a third game in the series was released called Darkfall Lost Souls. This game is set in the same location as the Journal and features several of the same characters. Although not part of the Darkfall series, The Lost Crown, a ghost hunting adventure, was released in 2008. It featured the character of Nigel Danvers, one of the ghost hunters from Darkfall the Journal. Darkfall the Journal is a wonderful, slower paced game full of rich narrative and detail. It has a creepy and unnerving atmosphere. This is not some AAA big-budget soulless affair, but even with its minor annoyances, such as not being able to skip the opening cutscene each time you start a new game, it is well worth your time. This is clearly a labour of love by Jonathan Bogues, and it is a labour that I love too. This is still readily available in shops at a reasonable price, so if you can pick up a copy, it comes highly recommended. If you'd like to learn more about other horror games from the past and watch Let's Plays of horror games both old and new, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, if you enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with your friends. Thanks, and till next time, I'll see you later.